Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Now let's jump into the video. Boom. Hey, man. You know, we're always talking, well, I'm always talking about the secret society, corruption in boxing, and I'm always just having an honest conversation about things that go on behind the scenes and the key decision makers, sanctioning bodies, officials, etc., promoters, and how all these guys are kind of having these relationships and making these under-the-table deals that if only the fly on the wall could talk, we'd have a better understanding of why some decisions are made and why we have some of the results in certain boxing matches that make us scratch our head and say, what the hell did we just see? Now, there was a time, right? And the more I do this YouTube boxing thing and create content, the more research I do, the more I come across stuff that I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Okay? But I came across something that I thought was interesting, something that happened a few years ago. And I think this is good for you guys who don't just want to hear the shock and awe boxing reports, but actually have an interest in, you know, the history of boxing and some of the things that have happened in the past that have kind of paved the way for where we are. And when I'm talking about things in the past, I'm talking about things that weren't so good. Now, in boxing, there are 4 major world championship governing bodies: the WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF. Now, the IBF, International Boxing Federation, is one of the younger governing bodies. They actually started in 1984. Now, this is the thing about the IBF. Now, their ranking and championship title shots were almost immediately paid by $338,000 in bribes. Okay? Now, the IBF's rankings would depend on the merit of boxers in their particular division. But fighters with a big pocket promoter, like Don King, he could pay in advance. Bribes from big promoters ensured the fighters stayed ranked above other fighters just getting by. Now, don't we see some of that today? Well, we're like, how the hell is this guy still in the mix? What the hell are these guys doing here? They're not active. They're not fighting. Right? We can look at the 147-pound division right now and be like, something's not right here. But you can look across almost every division and see something that just doesn't make sense. But anyway, this scheme would go on for about 13 years before an investigation was made, and IBF President Robert Lee was arrested, along with 3 other officials who were charged with taking bribes. Over 23 boxers and 7 promoters, including Don King and Top Rank's Bob Arum, were revealed to have been involved in fights and tainted by bribes. Okay, now we know Don King kind of barely hanging on in boxing. Bob Arum's been around for a while. Bob Arum's still doing big things. Bob Arum was out there in the Middle East. Bob Arum was with Kinahan. Bob Arum's fighters always seem to be in the middle of the action. Makes you wonder how Top Rank been around for so long, huh? I'm not saying this as a result of just bribes and corruption, but this right here isn't my opinion. It says right here, it was revealed Top Rank and Don King to have been involved in fights tainted by bribes. Arum said he paid $100,000 in 1995 to have George Foreman not have to face his mandatory. The IBF fed Foreman Alex Schultz, who was defeated by majority decision. In the end, Lee was convicted on bribery charges and served 22 months in prison and paid $25,000 in fines. Isn't that crazy? These guys are out here back in 1984 doing this crap, right? corruption at the highest level. Then you come out here and you talk about what's going on recently, right? It makes you sit here, and for me, it kind of makes my stomach kind of knot up, because I think sometimes there's some guys who come to my page and they hear me talking about the secret society and they think, I'm just out here making something up for views. Look, my man, I'm not making anything up for views. I'm telling you, I'm a common sense man. Everyone out here should have that ability to hear something or to watch something and to say, you know what, something just doesn't add up here. It doesn't make sense. You can't put your finger on it, but spidey senses are going off, right? So you can say, that was from 1984, man. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. Well, look, there was an article published July 18, 2022. Suspicions of an unlawful cash for ranking scheme raised as boxing promoter admits paying consultancy with ties to sanctioning body. Consultation fees. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Now, Bob Arum's been attached to corruption and bribes. Bob Arum, that was back in 1984. Recently, Bob Arum was out here paying consultation fees. He was attached to bribes and stuff back in 1984 to influence the outcome of a fight. Then Bob Arum here recently remember with Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, consultation fees. Mob boss, cartel, Irish cartel, right? No one can understand why a guy who's been in boxing 40 plus years would need to pay millions of dollars to someone who's known for influencing the outcome of fights. Consultation fees. Should make you scratch your head and say, what the hell is going on, right? But anyway, the article goes on to say a potential violation of the Muhammad Ali Act is buried in a deposition. Greg Cohen Promotions paid cash for a little-known consultancy ostensibly to secure favorable rankings at the WBA. So check that out. The man was paying, let's just keep it simple, a consultation fee to secure favorable rankings at the WBA. Isn't that crazy? Now, Greg Cohen declined to respond to the story. The WBA vehemently opposed false accusations. Now, this gets more interesting. Now, buried in a 242-page deposition, which was part of a lawsuit brought forward by an aggrieved former employee of boxing promoter Greg Cohen and his firm, Greg Cohen Promotion, lies an admission that calls into question the relationship between boxing promoters and the consultants they pay to elevate the profiles of fighters. I'm going to say that again. Boxing promoters and the consultants they pay to elevate the profiles of fighters. Okay? The lawsuit regards Clifford Mass, who claimed he paid $250,000 to invest in Greg Cohen Promotions and received $72,000, but grew disenchanted and sued Greg Cohen as he sought to recoup his money. What's interesting about the case is not Mass per se, but the working arrangement Greg Cohen Promotions had with the little-known sports consultant services and the relationship that little-known company potentially had with the WBA, one of the four major sanctioning bodies in boxing. Greg Cohen Promotions paid $17,250 to the Florida-based business, which Cohen described as an international company that worked very closely with the sports sanctioning bodies. They are an advocate and lobbyist on behalf of various boxers, promoters, and managers, he said in sworn testimony. Public records seen by insiders show sports consulting services operated for just 13 months and included two directors that have clear and direct ties to the WBA. So these guys are out here fronting like they're doing some kind of consultation work. And basically, the money's going through these guys, and they're trying to prove if it's going back to the WBA. Crazy. Now, Alfredo Mendoza, listed as a sports consulting services director, represented the WBA 4 years ago on the TV show The Contender. The WBA included Mendoza in a promotional video that same year. He's also WBA President Gilberto Mendoza's son. Now, Alfredo Mendoza is the WBA President Gilberto Mendoza's son. Alfredo Mendoza was listed as a sports consultant services director that was supposed to be helping elevate the profile of fighters ranked in the WBA. Isn't that crazy? Another company director, Zalubi Sofia Cuba, also has a relationship with the WBA. As her LinkedIn profile suggests, she's been employed by the sanctioning body since May 2016. She's performed translation duties for the WBA website. According to the deposition, the payments Greg Cohen said his company made to sports consulting services were earmarked for November 17, 2018 heavyweight fight between Gerald Miller and Bogdan Dinu, who are battling for the interim NABA heavyweight title. There's no admission in Cohen's deposition that the money was paid for rankings or preferred marquee fight positioning. However, the apparent close ties between sports consultant services and the WBA, the oldest still active sanctioned body in boxing, whose former champions include Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, raises red flags at least. If the WBA has been receiving money indirectly from Greg Cohen via sports consultant services, it will be a violation of federal law, according to Scott Schaefer, a boxing and litigation attorney with the firm Olshan From Woloski in New York City. Schaefer stressed, however, that it would have to be proved that the money trial did indeed proceed to the WBA rather than end with sports consultant services. The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, which President Bill Clinton signed into law on May 26, 2000, is clear. In Section 5, under Conflict of Interest, there's a paragraph for sanctioning organizations like the WBA. No officer or employee of a sanctioning organization may receive any compensation, gift, or benefit, directly or indirectly, from a promoter, boxer, or manager. The Ali Act was introduced in the late 1990s to protect the rights and welfare of boxers, while increasing sportsmanship and integrity within the sport. There was a huge scandal in the 1990s where IBF officials were caught on tape accepting bribes. That's the article I just read to you guys. But even back then, there were documented concerns about the pattern of corruption exhibited by the WBA, especially in favor of Don King, who at the time was at the height of his influence. Insiders sought comment from Cohen on numerous occasions over a span of 2 weeks, but he declined to respond. The WBA president, Gilberto Mendoza, told us he's angry about all the false comments made about his sanctioning body, saying he's in the middle of litigation about those false claims to be proven wrong in the lawsuit, and that's the only thing I could tell you. When asked if those false claims were the ones made by Cohen in the deposition, Mendoza said, "I can't talk about all the details. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit. The only thing I can tell you is it's all false accusations and will be proven wrong in the lawsuit." Insider contacted Zalubi Sofia Cuba via social media, but she did not immediately respond. Alfredo Mendoza could not be reached. Let me tell y'all something. Sports consultant services was not alone in the funneling money to the WBA for rankings. There are 4 major sanctioning bodies in boxing: the WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF. Each rewards athletes at the top of their ranking with eventual title shots and championship belts. Championship bouts are often more lucrative than non-title fights, as the lure of a belt can lead to TV dates with prominent networks. Fighters and promoters have goals to reach the top, and Greg Cohen Promotions retained the services of sports consultant services, as well as boxing matchmaker Ricardo Rizzo, to do just that, according to Cohen. Now, I tell you what, this whole thing is crazy. Crazy. because this guy Rizzo, he had been linked to alleged cash for ranking schemes before. Now, there was an article published in 2002 on the Sweet Science. Rizzo was reportedly caught bragging that he can help fighters get title shots with sanctioned bodies. Now, Rizzo, a WBO official at the time, according to the boxing website, allegedly said he could secure mandatory title shot opportunities within the WBO through a donation of $10,000 to the organization. The reporter who was in the room when the bribe was reportedly solicited asked, "What's the donation for?" "Pens and pencils for our members at the WBO convention," Rizzo replied. According to Cohen's deposition, Rizzo received a payment of $25,000 from Greg Cohen Promotions. Greg Cohen Promotions advances Ricardo Rizzo money all the time, Cohen said. Explaining further, Schaefer, an attorney specializing in combat sports law, told Insider that, according to Cohen's deposition, Greg Cohen Promotions paid Rizzo a fee for the Miller versus Dinu fight, which helped Miller move up in the WBA rankings. Now, you know what's unique about this? Where is Gerald Miller ranked right now? In what organization? He's ranked in the WBA. Isn't that crazy? He's not ranked anywhere else, but he's ranked in that WBA. And he's up there in the WBA. Sports consultant services work very close with sanctioning bodies, Schaefer continued, as an advocate and a lobbyist. It's hard to imagine any reason for these payments other than to secure a better ranking or a path to a title shot for one of Cohen's boxers. What else would a lobbyist do in this situation? Schaefer said, if you look at Greg Cohen's history, many of his boxers have gotten favorable treatment from the WBA, which make people's spidey senses tingle. I just used the same damn expression, right? These payments, Schaefer said, would violate the Muhammad Ali Act because this law forbids officers and employees from receiving compensation from a promoter. Again, Schaefer said it would have to be proven that Rizzo is a WBA employee or that he shared the money with someone other than WBA officials or employees. Well, I tell you what. When you sit here and you think about what I just read to you, right? Let me tell you something. Let me fix this here real quick. For me, it just tells me that everything that we talk about on this channel, when it comes to the secret society, when it comes to corruption in boxing, when it comes to key decision makers behind the scenes, everything that we talk about, the things that just don't make sense and we suspect things are going on but we don't have no proof, it all ties into this stuff we just went over, man. What I just read to you, those are articles I just read to you. Factual stuff. The stuff that we are here concerned about. Promoters, the referees, the officials, judges, the sanctioning bodies, right? The secret society. There's a symbiotic relationship. A common thread runs across them. You know, that's what I say when I do these videos. Then you go out there on the internet, you know, I got a little time, about to go upstairs and go to bed, right? And I said, let me see what's going on. Because you got all this crap bubbling up in Saudi Arabia right now. So, of course, like the article said, and like I said, you know, spidey senses are tingling. I want a better understanding of what the hell's going on. It's like, am I wrong, man? You know, is it possible corruption? I go out here and find an article, back in 1984, Bob Arum was found guilty of the exact same stuff that we're concerned about right now. 2022. Something about the WBA and Gerald Miller and, you know, guys, consultation fees. People supposed to be lobbying for fighters. Come on, man. Oh, man, we got to wake up out here. Some people don't care. For me, it's intriguing. I'd rather learn about this stuff than hear somebody tell me about Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford, the fight's off or the fight's on. Man, I ain't got time for that bullshit. Every now and then we do our little videos, you know, because we're boxing fans. But the real deal is peeling the layers back so that we get a better understanding when we're watching a fight, so we're not so naive when we see a referee drop down on his knees and damn near give Tyson Fury mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You know what I'm saying? And bring him back to life after Wilder tranquilizes him. When we see guys get hurt in fights, like Deontay Wilder when he fought Luis Ortiz, and the referee all of a sudden gives Wilder a super long standing 8, walk around the ring, talk to him, basically give him the damn Manny Pacquiao 18 count that Pacquiao got back there in the Philippines when he was they told that referee make sure he wins the fight. So I watch everything with a hairy eyeball. Some things don't make sense. Canelo Alvarez winning the Triple G fights, the first one and the second one. You know what I'm saying? Canelo Alvarez being up on a scorecard against Floyd Mayweather, fighting Bivol and seeing that he was winning. They were going to rob Bivol. Seeing Usyk fighting AJ, and they were going to rob, Usyk. Just seeing these scorecards and how they are. I mean, makes you wonder. So for me, it's nothing for me to think about anymore. I'm telling you, man, there's crap going on. And the same things going on today, things that were going on back in the day. And it's always going to happen. You want to talk about, well, what do we do? How do we fix it? You know what I'm saying? How do we fix this? I'm going to tell you the way to fix it is to get all these sanctioning bodies on the same page, but they're not going to do that. You look across the sanctioning bodies. Earl Spence may be ranked in the WBC. Okay? He doesn't have a WBO strap, but he's not ranked in the WBO. How can the guys who are the top 5 fighters, right? Ranked the champions and top 5 fighters. How can they not all be ranked across every sanctioning body? At least in those same spots. If not in the same spots, at least they should be in it. But it should be all the same, right? Earl Spence is the champion in the WBC. To me, he should be the number 1 in the WBO. He's not even listed there. How can you have a champion? These are boxing. This is boxing, right? The rack and stack is what it is. He's a boxer. How can the WBO not have Earl Spence ranked? How can Terrence Crawford not be ranked by the WBC? Just because he has a title? That's stupid. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we're talking boxing, all these sanctioning bodies, you would think that the rack and stacks would mirror each other. How the hell can you have someone like Demetrius Andre ranked number 1 and 2 sanctioning bodies? I think is in 2 sanctioning bodies right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, make sure I'm not talking out my crackerjack. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you right here. You got Demetrius Andre ranked number 1 in the WBO and in the WBA. But then you look for Demetrius Andre's name in the WBC, he's ranked number 5. You look for his name in the IBF, he's not even ranked. See what I'm saying? But that being said, only way to fix it is to get these guys to really come together, standardize what they're doing, but they're not, because they operate independent of each other, and it's all about money. And if they were to sit there and kind of standardize their processes and make sure their rack and stacks mirrored each other, then they'll just, all that dirt money that's being made, it will go away. You understand? Because a guy may not be able to push the buttons of the WBC, but he can push the buttons of the WBO. So give him a little dirt money, they make sure his guy ends up in the rankings. The WBA, hey, they've just been found guilty of doing it before. Give a little bit of money, they get their guys in the rankings. So, I mean, if all these guys were on the same sheet of music, people couldn't come in there, man, and try to come in through the side door and get an advantage for their fighter. But it all boils down to money, the root of all evil. And I don't think anyone should be surprised. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Long video, I apologize. I hope you enjoyed it. But I like having that corporate knowledge, man. I like understanding what the hell's going on. So when I hear these fools out here talking, these content creators who, most of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. Even some of these larger channels, these guys don't know nothing, man. They're just out here talking about what they hear. They may read one article, but nobody peeling their layers back, and they lie. And the thing is, they have like cult followings who sit there, man, and believe everything these guys say. Now, there's nothing wrong with a little exaggeration. I have fun with some stuff, but at least be able to intelligently speak on boxing, and at least have fought before. I don't care I'm not talking about professionally. sparred, trained, actually had to go through the grind and get ready for a fight, have a camp. As an amateur, man, you got to train. You got to, goddamn, even if you're doing a smoker, if you take it serious, you're training, you're cutting weight. You understand? You're trying to have a game plan. You're sparring. I mean, let me tell you something. At least have done that before you start a boxing channel. You guys come out here can't talk about anything because they never done it. I've done it, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you did it for one fight. That's all you need to understand. And you spar, but you had to do some sparring. That's all you need to understand what it's like to get in the ring, man. Get the wind knocked out of you. To get hit. Someone throw a right hand and bring it back halfway, double it up. That second one hits you, you see bright lights all over the goddamn place. You know, those are the growing pains. And then now some of those guys who are giving you the business, now you're giving them the business. You know what I'm saying? Putting in the work. But anyway, man, it's unfortunate this corruption happens because you see some good fighters who don't get opportunities, man. And it is what it is. I can't fix it. I can just sit here and talk about it and try to educate my audience. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Y'all make sure y'all working out, eat some good food. Try to rest up, man. Try to live as long as you possibly can. Worry about the things you have control over. Because it's something we don't have any control over. Like this bullshit going on with this corruption in boxing and the secret society. Y'all keep cool in the breeze.